Russia has kicked off its economic forum in Vladivostok, where a North Korea-Russia summit is widely expected. There are reports that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is traveling to the Russian city today, but there are no immediate signs of his arrival yet. For more, we're joined by Professor Joel Atkinson this morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Now, Professor, would you say North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has changed his travel route, like South Korea's spy agency did say last week?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Putin is expected to be in Vladivostok in Russia's Far East from today to attend the Eastern Economic Forum. So Kim Jong-un last met Putin in Vladivostok for a summit in 2019. So Kim traveling to meet him there would make a lot of sense. But according to South Korea's intelligence services, there have been no signs that his armored train is ready to move. So this means he'll either be going a bit later or take another mode of transport or perhaps meet Putin at a later date. So given the possibility of this Putin-Kim meeting was publicized by the US, and given how concerned Kim Jong-un typically is about secrecy and security, it's very possible that the summit may happen at an unexpected time and location, if it happens at all.
Mm-hmm. The whole meetup is all about Russia wanting weapons from North Korea to use against Ukraine, and the North may get Russian technology or even food out of Russia, right? Now, how might such military cooperation between North Korea and Russia not be a win-win situation at the end?
Well, by all accounts, Russia's burning through war material at a very fast pace in Ukraine, and North Korea has failed at a few satellite launch attempts lately, and it's trying to field more sophisticated weapons and weapons platforms like submarines that can launch nuclear ballistic missiles. And obviously with Russia as a world leader in military tech, it could really benefit from Russian know-how and components. So each certainly has a potential to get something it values out of closer cooperation. And also their drawing closer together will potentially increase the leverage each has over Seoul and Washington. But I would say it's only a win-win to the extent that the invasion of Ukraine is a good thing for Russia, and that these missile and nuclear weapons program is a good thing for North Korea. And also to the extent that both benefit from having a hostile relationship with the West. So I would expect their closer cooperation will probably harden attitudes in Seoul and Washington, not soften them, and it will likely increase South Korea's strategic cooperation with Japan. And worse than that really is it will only keep the war in Ukraine going, and it will keep North Korea's weapons program going, when it would actually be much better for ordinary Russians if Putin pulled out of Ukraine and if Kim Jong-un directed the resources he's putting into the military into raising living standards instead.
Right, it looks like the arms deals will only tighten the friendship between North Korea and Russia. But the question is, why does Russia want to consolidate the Pyongyang-Moscow-Beijing partnership? I mean, is it because there's no going back because of the Ukraine crisis?
I think the reality is that invading Ukraine was a terrible decision, and the resistance from the Ukrainian people and the government is much stiffer than Putin expected, and Western support is much greater and more effective than he predicted. But of course, he doesn't want to lose, so the only option then is to seek increasing cooperation from those few countries willing to help. China, of course, is the most important here. It has far greater economic and diplomatic resources than North Korea, but it's vulnerable to sanctions given its reliance on exports to the West and Western technology, and there are limits to how much and how openly it can prop up Putin's war effort. So North Korea has less to lose. It has a large amount of weaponry similar to Russia's, since it's based on the same Soviet models. So it makes sense for Moscow to try and consolidate the relationship.
Right, but the problem is the Pyongyang-Moscow-Beijing partnership is being framed something like Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo have, right? Now, why is China, or why may China be not as enthusiastic about the trio?
Yes, China's presumably the least enthusiastic about trilateral cooperation. The reason is that it has the least to gain from it. Moscow is desperate, and if Pyongyang is interested in something, then it will definitely consider it. Also, China working more closely with North Korea for Russia's sake is another way of showing that Xi Jinping has Putin's back, and hence Russia's not going to quit. So it's the West that should step up pressure on Kyiv to compromise. North Korea gets prestige from the arrangement. North Korea's navy is not the same level as Russia's or China's, but to be asked to exercise with them would elevate its status as a military power. Also, a trilateral arrangement puts Kim on more of an equal footing with Putin and Xi Jinping. And in Xi Jinping's mind, Kim is definitely not at the same level.
Right.
And there's little inclination in Beijing to treat him like an equal. And, finally, as I mentioned before, China has more to lose in terms of its relations with the West. To be in a grouping with North Korea like this, a country sanctioned by the UN Security Council would cast China as something of a rogue state, especially when the other partner is a man who launched a war of aggression against his neighbor. So my prediction would be that we won't actually see a high level of public coordination between the three, and any important developments will mainly be between Russia and North Korea.
All right, Professor Atkinson, thank you so much for your insight this morning. You have a great week.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.